Yo, I'm having some difficulty, but hold on one second, I'm going up down there. Okay, hold on a sec. I'm about to. It's coming up right now. It's just taking a second to get the live. Yeah, it says live recording is not available. Let me try to see if I can do it through live through this here.
showtime!
It's showtime. Creeping in with CFM Radio.
Yo, CFM Radio. Rolling in with Koopa's theme from Super Mario 64.
Hell yeah, I love this. This is one of my favorite boss themes. Super cool. Those wild those wavy synths that are all like what, not synced up correctly. It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's an epic sound font that you can find a lot of songs covered in a Super Mario 64 fashion now. So yeah, classic, really restricted chip samples. I love, one of the things I love about video game music as a whole is the kind of musical magic they can make with, such limited means.
Yeah, when you think about the technology they use on things like the N64, the Game Boy, even unsung heroes like the Sega Saturn and because that wasn't one-to-one CD audio. A lot of the time, those
that came later.
That came way later, and a lot of those times those CDs on the Sega Saturn just pretty much mimicked CD quality audio as opposed to actually giving you the full CD audio experience, unlike the PlayStation. PlayStation 100% CD quality audio.
Yeah, sometimes their way around would be to actually generate the sounds instead of play a recording. And I'm pretty sure the 64 did that. Yeah, it's almost like what the Beatles did with the 4-track recorders back in the day. Except, each game figures out their own.
Yeah, you are right. I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah, the Game Boy, the Nintendo, they only have 4 channels. You got 2 square waves, one wave table and one kind of sampler thing. So make some art with that.
Absolutely. It's fun. Before we jump into the big meaty discussions here, what's really fun, I think, cool tidbit is it's fun to play old retro games and games like we're playing Pokemon trading card game over on the YouTube, CFM on Twitch. Go follow it. But it's cool to listen to the BGM in that game because it's so badass, first of all. Second of all, when you're pressing buttons rapidly, it's like you said, these consoles had a certain amount of channels, audio channels that they had access to. And sometimes your sound effects would overlap and cancel out the audio track underneath. So it's always funny to, where I'm going through the Day 2 Supercut, it's coming out by the end of the week. If you missed Day 3, that Day 3 is cut, the full stream is on CFM on Twitch right now, so you can keep up with all the action on Pokemon Game Boy. But it's funny to go back and hear the times when I'm pressing through the buttons in the menu and hear what audio track is being canceled out by the sound effect from the button press.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. I hear it in Pokemon Pinball a lot too, but yeah,
all
you only
the time.
have 4 ways to make noise, and every time you hit a bumper or a flipper, or a sound effect, it removes an instrument from the background music. It's funny.
It is pretty funny. It's funny when you catch it. And if you're ever playing one of those old games, try it. It's especially wild when you're playing a Sonic game. If you're playing a Sonic game and you're doing spin dash sound effect, double jump sound effects from Sonic and Tails, and you have one of these you're in Chemical Plant or something like that, half the background music just disappears.
Yeah, one instrument in the entire band just goes away.
But Drix, we're talking about dealing with limited I shouldn't say dealing, I should say creating and bringing your vision into reality through limited means and working with what you have. But I hate to say it, free to use game engine Titan Unity has come under fire in the last few days from the game development community. Their latest blog, titled, quote, Unity Plan Pricing and Packaging Updates, details restructuring of its payment structures. The change that draws the most ire from game development is the 20 cents per install fee that the company will be charging to projects using the engine for their games. It comes as a big blow to independent developers, as this new fee from Unity will stack on top of storefront fees and publisher fees that already devastate the bottom line for these developers. And Drix, I was listening to a couple of different indie game devs on YouTube. You just talk about, like, look up Unityengine backlash on anything and you'll get a ton of commentary. But one of the game devs I was listening to was saying, we don't know what this actually means. Like, what does it mean when someone pirates my game? Am I going to get 20 cents on that install because it's just you're running the install codec and that's the only thing that is being tracked? Or, is it purchased? How is this going to work? How does the cloud work? Like, what's going on?
This really makes me a little insecure about my knowledge of the video game industry as a whole. I love to talk about games here, but I mean, 20 cents per install doesn't seem crazy to me where I'm standing, but I just don't know what the process is and like what a company, making a video game, how that would play. And don't even get me started on what a storefront and publisher fee is. I mean, I'm more familiar with the music side of things, like, getting your stuff on Spotify. But yeah, what's it like getting your stuff on Steam or, Epic Games?
From what I understand, Epic Games, like, from what I understand, Epic Games is pretty lenient and gives its developers a good cut. But this 20 cents per install, you're right that maybe not the big dogs, right? Maybe even some of these like smaller indie guys that maybe have like a successful game or two, maybe like the Pizza Tower guys or the Blasphemous guys, or something like that, right? Maybe those guys, it won't hurt them too much because they have an install base that will buy their game, and it maybe ranges so that they can cut a profit. But if I'm just trying to make a game, right? And I'm like, and everyone's telling me, oh, Unity, it's the best thing for indie game devs and it's free, yada yada blah blah. Everyone knows how to use it. That's another thing that I was listening to a lot. No one wants to learn how to use a new game engine and learn all the tricks and all the inside outs of it when you've been doing this for over a decade. So, if that's the case, I don't know if I'm going to make games in Unity, because if it's 20 cents per install, let's say I do want to take a chance and just release it, right? Like, even on my own personal website.
Or is it the developers?
It's the end user.
Wow. So you're stacking another 20 cents on top of the price that somebody would pay for a game in order to like be in the green and hold the profit,
Yeah. If that, what is it like? Because like that's another thing that's notoriously difficult to gauge with an indie game. What is the value of the indie game? How do we make the money on it? You know what I mean? And if there's an extra 20 cents per install, and again making the points of, is it like, how does piracy affect this? How does cloud gaming affect this? Are these installs? You know what I mean? Like, it's interesting, right? It's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, because I can't say I've ever heard of a set of rules like this before. Or because you made it in this engine, you're adding to the end cost of what a user would pay, even if it's like a $5, $15 game.
Well, because no, I'm sorry. I think I told that to you backwards. No, if I install your Unity game, Unity takes 20 cents from you.
Yeah.
So it's like
the piracy question, or
so that piracy question is a big deal, and cloud game, like, again, all these non-install methods, right? The non-install methods. It's so weird, like, but I mean, it just seems like these smaller game dev tools like Godot, that's the only one that comes to my mind off the top of my head, really. Game Maker, I guess. Like, you can these other names, they'll probably rise up because people don't like this Unity change.
Yeah, people are jumping ship for the cost.
Yeah, that's not good. But We'll roll on with some more game dev news after a little bit of a musical break. Drakes, what are we listening to?
Ooh, we are coming out of a little block of Marvel vs. Street Fighter. This is the theme of Dalsum.
Gotta love these old Capcom mixes. Marvel vs. Street Fighter, theme of Dalsum, CFM Radio. All right.
I'm
We're getting down with some CFM Radio. You know what, Drix? I love this track. Probably my favorite Ocarina of Time track. I don't know why they don't reuse this track more in more Zelda games.
Yeah, more Goron jams and more Zelda games.
I agree. You know, no one rocks quite as hard as a Goron. And I'll tell you what else rocks. This more game dev news, but a little bit on the more interesting, brighter side. It rolls on with an interview from Peter Sikachev of game studio Virtuos, an industry powerhouse since 2004, whose work on their port of the Switch version of Nier Automata is nothing short of legendary. They got that thing, Nier Automata, like the whole thing to run on the Switch, and it works great. Like, it's super good. I don't know if anybody has played the Nier Automata port on the Switch. It's not the greatest visually, especially in handheld mode, but man, it plays great and is awesome it's awesome that it flows so well. You know, Platinum Games, right? Like,
yeah, it's quite a technical achievement getting such a visually stunning PlayStation title, Square Enix level graphics and action to get down just as good on a Switch, huh?
And yeah, you know, they've been doing it since 2004, and this interview is really interesting in the way where it's titled, first of all, it's titled Outsourcing, Porting, and the Difference Between Rendering, Game, and Film. And Sikachev details his history in the industry, the challenges of creating, quote, miraculous ports, such as the aforementioned Nier Automata, and the key differences between rendering for games versus movies, and the surprisingly potent power of word of mouth in the shockingly small games industry. You know, it was really interesting reading this interview and seeing him go into detail about how the Nier Automata port was, like, the focus was to deliver the gameplay experience over anything else. And then on top of it, game industry being so small that word of mouth is really powerful. What?
Yeah, like a group of creatives, you know, just trying to work together in the same sort of scene, if you will.
Yeah, like, you know, you would think that, like, word of mouth wouldn't be so potent, right?
Yeah, I mean, in entertainment, you know, it's not just who you know, but also who knows you and who's aware of you and what they know of your work. And yeah, a solid reference is definitely a highway to landing a good gig.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely seems like that from this interview. Again, you want to check this interview out. It is called Outsourcing, Porting, and the Difference Between Rendering, Game, and Film, from sector.sk. Pretty good interview. Pretty short and sweet, to the point. And you know what? We're going to roll right in with the new releases, because there's not a ton, but we got heavy hitters coming at us next week. And it can be easy to miss these games. These are a couple of games that are pretty cool that you might not want to miss. Especially if you're a fan.
Yep, a couple sequels and franchises receiving another entry.
Pretty much all of them, because today, September 13th, sees the release of Super Bomberman R2. This is the sequel to the Switch launch title and the latest in the legendary Bomberman franchise. This new game is the biggest Bomberman game ever, complete with a robust story mode, classic battles, a 64-man battle royale, a stage editor for the new castle mode, and more. You could also blast your buddies online. I mean, Drix, I love Bomberman.
Yeah, that is just some classic gameplay that you can trace really far back in gaming history. There have just been so many sweet Bomberman games. They made the leap to 3D like early on in like PlayStation and Nintendo 64. And they were the joke goes Bomberman was the first battle royale game.
True.
Up to four people and last man standing. Try not to get blown up.
And not just that.
It's made its way to 64 players now.
Yeah, not just that. Classic Bomberman was also a pioneer in that you had that multi-tap. 4 players, 6 players, you know?
Yeah, you could multi-tap in every controller slot and just bring more people into the fray.
And it was crazy to do that on like a Super Nintendo or a Sega Genesis. But again, that's Super Bomberman R2. It was a Switch launch title. It's out for everything right now. So if you want to play some Bomberman action, now is the time. Go grab it. Fun fact about this 64-man battle royale mode: it was a standalone game on the Stadia for a while.
Wow.
Yeah.
Early access. I love how that's sort of in fashion right now.
The earliest of access.
Yeah, and another Stadia artifact from when they were around, similar to Baldur's Gate 3.
Another one tomorrow, September 14th, is Deceit 2. Now, from the Steam page, Deceit 2 is a 6 to 9 player social deduction horror game where 2 among you have been infected. Whilst the infected do the game master's bidding, the innocent must work together to survive the ritual whilst deducing the plot who is against them. So who can you trust? You know, I never played the original Deceit game, but one look at this trailer, it looks like something way different than your standard Among Us fare. This game is crazy, Drix. It's like gory, like got those jump scares, you know?
Yeah, it really takes the immersion and atmosphere to the next level compared to, Among Us, which is great in its own cartoon sense. But yeah, how about a more horrifying feast for the eyes?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's to me, Among Us and all that kind of social deduction thing, it's fun, but the original games that's based off of, like the Mafia and the Werewolf, they're like tabletop games that you play with your friends and around a table and stuff like that. And you have different roles in those games, and those kinds of things make the game a little bit more interesting. So I'm interested to see how this game checks out, or who checks this game out, I should say. See if it makes any headway on Twitch, because I would love to see like a whole group of people playing this.
Yeah, it's probably a fun watch with the right group, Seeing the Go Fish, the card game, are they not lying? Try not to betray your friends. try to test your friendships on that one. See who
hey man, those
side.
games can be pretty fun.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And finally, okay, so the official release of this next game is next week. But if you bought the premium or the collector's edition of Mortal Kombat 1, then you could play that tomorrow.
Ooh, I know there's fans out there who have. They must be pretty excited.
And for all you fighting game fanatics out there, unfortunately this is me included, I'm not going to be able to play Mortal Kombat 1 until probably end of the month. But Mortal Kombat 1, for all you fighting game fanatics out there, the early access to a game like this is pretty much necessary. Like if you want to have a leg up in your local tournaments or in online competitions. Like you're going to be playing the full game, you'll be playing it online, you'll be able to go into training mode, you'll be able to go, like if you and like maybe 2 or 3 other friends, I mean, what am I talking about? Fuck it. Go onto a Discord. You'll be instantly, you have an instant pool of probably better than average players for you to just jump in on and start practicing. Listen, this time before the main crowd comes in, on when does this game come out? Main crowd comes in on the 19th. Listen, these first 5 days, if you want to jump in, it doesn't matter if you just get your ass kicked for 5 days in pre-release ranked. If you can really learn the system, the game and why you're losing, and you can circumvent those weaknesses that you have, you will smooth sail to master ranks after the 19th.
Yeah, once the the horde of fresh meat shows up, you'll have already surpassed your limits.
Exactly, and you'll just crush these guys, and they won't know what to do. So, Mortal Kombat 1, I'm looking forward to it. Won't be able to, unfortunately, play it, mainly because I could not resist grabbing this next game that we were going to talk about right after this musical break. But, Drix, this industrial beat, what is it?
This is from Rez. The song is called Rock His Sponge Area 4, but yeah, from visually stunning masterpiece train track shooter, I guess you could call it. Omnidirectional shooter, Rez.
Omnidirectional rail shooter, Rez. We got those sick beats, lovely game. CFM Radio. CFM Radio, we are back.
CFM Radio with a Game Boy Advance classic, Andy's theme from Advance Wars.
And hell yeah, if you have not ever checked out Advance Wars, you can get Advance Wars 1+2 on the Switch right now on the eShop. Or you order that bad boy off Amazon, physical copy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, some fun songs, some fun turn-based army building action.
Tactical turn-based army building action that you can play multiplayer. You and your buddies can go against each other. And you know what, Drix? I gotta tell you, these Advance Wars games, they can get long. This is like fucking Crusader Kings over here.
Yeah, it can. Just the streamlined, animated command and conquer style.
And you know what? Commanding and conquering, it might seem a little outdated, but it's not when it's in a mech. Folks, we're talking Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon, today on CFM Radio. Drix has played it, I've played it. I don't know, I think you might have gotten farther in it than I have, Drix. Like,
it's possible. It's been my, pretty much the only game I've been trying to pick up lately. I personally haven't been this happy from a video game in a while, but I've also, me and a friend of mine, we've been waiting for like a long time for another installment of Armored Core. Pretty much through the whole Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Elden Ring, throughout all of that, we were just asking ourselves, when are they going to make another robot game? That would just be really cool if we could get another mech game. But I'd say it was worth the wait because I don't know. I don't want to throw around the word Souls-like. It's a little kind of easy to do, but the flavor is still really strong, and I'm enjoying the difficulty. And
do you think this is like a Souls-like?
I mean, it's hard. I don't think that makes it Souls-like. First of all, because it's swordy based and missions, and it's not an open world.
Or even like an explorable hub world.
Yeah. No, you don't even get, real characters in the flesh in this game. But that's part of the storytelling, and I feel like I'm finally participating in the meta for a game.
Right, yeah, seriously, like as far as the multiplayer is concerned. Like, and like the buzz around it, you know what I mean? Like geez, everybody is talking about this game,
and I've been dipping my toes into PvP.
I have not.
Yeah, I've gotten a few good fights, a couple online strangers, and I love to see people's different builds. Like, you can try a lot of stuff and bring a lot of different things to the table, and even in your matchmaking lobbies, if somebody's pulling out something and you want to try to counter it, you can hit the assembly menu and just hit your garage real quick.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Spec something out. Yeah, it's a cool lobby system. You can have 9 people in a lobby.
Wow.
You can do singles fights or 3-on-3 fights.
Yes.
I haven't tried the 3-on-3 yet, but me and you, Vector, and my cousin Chainer, kudos, he's out there. We should get a team going and try that out soon.
Hell yeah, I'm down. So, Drix, I'm with you. I'm loving this game. This is I'm 100% there. Sitting here playing all these. I'm an old school Demon Souls guy, and I love Demon Souls, but I didn't think it would go this far. Like, I didn't think it would go as far as it did. Now we're in Dark Souls 3, and now we're, that series taking a little bit of a hiatus a little bit. The Elden Ring was the last big thing. After such a huge departure, I am so surprised Armored Core 6 isn't more like those games, and I'm happy that it's not. As a fan of Armored Core, it's interesting
Yes,
to see.
same.
It's interesting to see that they've kept pretty much the soul of Armored Core intact. Even if so, I'm one of those people. I don't think the targeting, the auto targeter, is a big deal, but I definitely feel like the missions, not the boss fights, the missions, they get a little wishy-washy. They feel a tad repetitive after a little while, and I always just find myself wanting to go get to the boss, and I find it very disappointing that when I don't fight a boss, and that's what sucks to me most about this game is that I can't.
Bosses steal the show.
Yeah, the bosses steal. Not only do the bosses steal the show, they do it. And a lot of, I think personally that it's just kind of that's standard FromSoft shit, right? Like the bosses are always going to steal the show, but you feel it a lot more here than in any other FromSoft game, at least in recent memory, because this game definitely, 2 shots from a shotgun kills a basic mech, 3 assault rifle shots kills them. Hell, even a close range blast from almost anything will shoot down a mech, like a basic mech that's not an armored core. So that's kind of whatever, boring. But the boss fights and the cinematic moments, and surprisingly, the story. If you could get into it, I understand if you can't get into the story. I do. I understand if there's, because but personally, I like the distinctly isolated atmosphere. Because, to me, it puts me really in the, I feel like I'm in the boots of being a mercenary. You know what I mean? I feel like, this is kind of what would be happening. I hear a lot of people be like, oh, I don't feel like I have any agency. I don't feel like I have any, I feel like I don't have any decisions that I can make. I don't want to support these people. And it's like, well, you do. At least to me. You have really big storyline moments where you can make a decision.
Ending.
Yeah. You can make a decision that really affects. Same. And it really affects, but I already know, I took a mission that I had a branching path that clearly would have led me down another path if I would have chosen the other one. I thought about it the other day, and I was like, maybe a couple of the missions would have been the same, but I wouldn't have fought one of the bosses that I fought the same way, I don't think. And because I want to fight one of the bosses, or I didn't actually know this at the time, but I didn't realize I was teaming up whole hog with the corporations. And then we took down this big boss together, and I was thinking about it because you could choose. I could also have chosen to do a job for the Liberation Front at that point, and I was like, "Huh, interesting. I wonder how different this would have been." So I'm very interested, especially since I understand there's a new game plus mode when you beat the game. I'm very interested to see to explore more decision-making possibilities in my next playthrough.
Yeah, exactly. I hear there are new options, maybe even some new parts, and definitely different storyline tidbits. But yeah, it's like you haven't really finished the game until you've beaten it 3 times over.
Kind of like Nier Automata, right?
Yeah. I do like some of the strange curveballs they throw you before a boss fight that you might expect. Have you gotten to the stealth mission yet? Where you gotta
I believe so.
Be a little sneaky.
Yeah, you can't get caught by certain things.
Yeah, man. And when it first hits you, it's pretty surprising, and I really enjoyed it. But you're right, you do kind of just I want to get to the boss at the end and have that fight and that interaction and have that real challenging AC battle. There's a few enemies that might give you a little bit of a run for your money in that you're gonna have to actually like dodge and use some of your other abilities, or maybe consider even your build. But yeah, boss fights are great. Story missions, you kind of plow through them.
Yeah, I agree. It feels underwhelming when there's not, at least, you're right, too. There are enemies that, part of those curveballs that you're talking about, those enemies that just come out of left field and you're like, whoa, this guy, he's packing a tri-rocket launcher that locks onto me and he's pretty fast. So, like, I gotta be able to dodge this and, like, nail him with my Boss burst rifle really quick so I can hit him once and then just nail him with a rocket and then he'll die. Or these guys, you see it on the B-roll, these guys with the shields, in the very beginning, you don't think much of them. But then later on in the game, they sprinkle those shield dudes in with the rank and file guys. And, like, you'll decimate a whole team of rank and file dudes. And then, like, you'll want to move on. And then you'll turn around and you'll be like, what the hell? And there's a line of shield guys still there.
Yeah, and it's kind of disappointing when you see your bullets just bounce off of them or one of the bosses or something.
That's why you jump into that laser sword, baby, or your melee weapon of choice.
Yeah, I do love melee.
Melee in this game.
Yeah, the pile bunker, actually very effective.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I've gotten a few good multiplayer kills with it.
That's how I beat one of these bosses. I was having trouble with one of the bosses, this big sea spider thing, having a lot of trouble with him. And then I was like, you know what? I think my melee weapon might be out of date. And then I saw the pile bunker. I was like, oh baby, like it's time.
Yeah, that's a lot of impact. Yeah, it really is about, if like in a spaceship game like say EVE Online, where you're just a lot of your success or failure is determined by what you kind of leave the station with, but the other half is your piloting ability, which especially in PvP, it's almost like an extreme sport version of like keeping a hockey puck on screen as it's bouncing back and forth, and you're timing your weapon shots. And because even the older Armored Core games, I feel like they stayed true to that, at least, even with or without hard lock. There's a couple different variables. I think depending on your firing control system, you can have an easier or harder time locking on with close range melee attacks, or you can specialize in having a faster missile lock on. But even in like the first Armored Core, you had to keep your enemies in your targeting box, and it's like a really almost anime fast version of watching the DVD logo bounce across your screen from an old DVD screensaver, going, is it going to hit the corners? Is it going to hit the corners? But you got to keep your enemies on target and in lock. And
hell, you feel that way sometimes.
Match to the win.
You feel that way sometimes in the main game. I was fighting a boss today that was moving all over the place, and then when you got close to it, pulled up a shield, and then that's when I met my pile bunker, and that's kind of when I got the gist of beating it. But like there are times when, like, especially against enemy ACs, there's a whole arena mode where you can go one-on-one against AI ACs. And some of those ones get crazy, especially later on. They use weapons that you're not expecting. Some of those ones, like those reverse leg ones, are super fast. And they'll hit you from they'll get behind you, and then they just start wreaking havoc. So nasty. But I think that it's really fun, especially like what you were saying when you were saying how. You gotta make sure that your targeting system is in check for what you want to do. All of your gear needs to be correct. Your whole build, I don't think this game is as strict as previous Armored Core games as far as the builds go. Because sometimes you could totally it would function, but it would just not fucking work. But this game, you could
it's
pretty
definitely not as strict.
Yeah, you could confidently build around your favorite weapon or your favorite mech type. You like your mech. I like bipedal mechs, right? Like some people like the reverse joint mechs. Some people like the mechs that got the spider legs. Some people like the mechs that got the tank treads. And you could use any of them. The game will let you do it. It's more about your weapons at the end of the day, especially if you're having a really hard time against a boss. It's a lot more about the weapons. And if you can confidently take your favorite builds and edit them and tweak them so that they're using different weapons, and it'll work out for you. And I think that's awesome.
Yep.
Like, there's a lot of crunchy stats, and I'm sure in multiplayer, like you were saying, every stat's gonna have to count. But when you're playing the single player mode, I think it's kind of fun that I can just use my favorite aesthetic mech build and just tweak its like internals and its weapons.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll want to do that even just going from PvP to like story mode missions. You'll want to swap out something sometime. Yeah, I usually do the arena first as soon as I unlock it, and then maybe switch over to just a full-on missile boat for like a boss that I have to take on in story mode. And I like that it kind of keeps you thinking, keeps you on your toes. And you have pretty much a balance between your body being either fast or heavily armored, or just really mobile versus really strong and tanky. And then the weapon system, you have almost like a rock, paper, scissors of kinetic ammo, explosives like missiles, and then energy weapons. So if you can, balance out either missiles and energy or kinetic and energy, you're usually doing okay.
And I love the X factor that the melee weapons bring in. Your melee weapon's pretty much your best weapon, but it's the best weapon to accomplish both of the main things you want to accomplish. If you've been watching the B-roll, you'll realize against some enemies, you'll see that they got the life bar, and then they get another yellow meter above the life bar. The yellow meter, once it fills up, they stagger, and you get a free hit. It's like they call it a direct hit. So when you get the free hit, it deals double damage or something like that. So the X factor of the melee weapon is really, really fun in its balancing, in that the melee weapon is probably the best thing to hit your opponent with at any given time. Whether you want to stagger them, whether you want to deal the big damage with a direct hit, it doesn't matter what you want to do. The melee weapon is going to be probably the thing that you want to do. But that weapon takes a while to recharge. So it's a really
luck close.
For sometimes it can be really hard to get close, but I mean, again, that fine line balance is very, very fun and very engaging. It makes you always you're always thinking like, okay, and you're always thinking and you're always making key decisions. Like, if you are in melee range and you can get the hit, do you use it to stagger, or do you try to go for the stagger with your gun and your shoulder units, and then get them with the big power hit with your melee weapon, so that you do the big damage? Because when you're doing the big stagger damage with your melee weapon, you're probably not doing a ton of AP damage, or like the damage directly to the health. But if you're probably staggering them instantly. But if you already stagger them, you're taking like a third of their life with that melee strike. And so it's a nice balance. It keeps things interesting, keeps things fresh, and it always keeps the player thinking. That's what I really like.
Yeah, can't get too comfortable because something will try to backslap you.
I like that because it's one of those especially with these single player games. Sometimes these single player games just devolve into a set pattern that you just do over and over and over again. Like it's kind of sad when games make a great first impression and then later on they just can't keep the momentum. It kind of reminds me of Sifu, and I know people love that game, But Sifu, to me, was a game that made a great first impression, but couldn't really keep its momentum, mainly because it tried to be some kind of weird speedrun game where, like, your progress with a strange progression system. But further than that, you know, that game had an awesome first act and a crazy second act, and the first two levels were probably the harder levels of the game. So a game that's built on challenge, you know, a game. But this game, Armored Core 6, it keeps that momentum up. It gives you from. I haven't finished the game yet because I'm playing this and Starfield at the same time. But pretty much from start to finish, from so far, I mean, I've clocked about 18 hours into this game. Like, I play it, like, when I reach for a game, I'll say it like this. When I reach for a game to play, I play this game.
Yeah, same. That's where I've been at. I haven't even looked at the hours, but it's been a good amount, probably around the same.
Yeah, like, if I reach for a game to play, like, I just want to play a game and unwind, it's Armored Core 6.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel great with that. Like...
Yeah. So, missions, multiplayer, mech builds, it's got the
online
for me.
Yeah, it's got everything. It's fully featured, and to me, it's fully featured. And you know, the cinematics, the cinematic quality isn't incredible, right? This game's not Final Fantasy 16. It's not going to blow your socks off with insane cinematography and crazy cutscenes. It's not that kind of game. The atmosphere, like I said, it's very dark. It's very industrial. Truly industrial. Like, if you want a game that really nails what it actually means to be an industrial, like a future tech industrial vibe, this is the game. And it's not the most inviting thing. It's a very lonely feeling. Like,
it's cold and emotional, like a machine.
Yes, like a machine.
But in a good artistic way.
Right. It's really, really good because it makes those moments of emotion like really stand out, and the punch really hits. For me, Armored Core 6 fired on all cylinders. I can see why it's not for everybody. I can see why people maybe wouldn't like it. No open world, shallow sense of exploration from level to level, and it is a straight up old school sortie system, missions level to level. You beat the mission, you go back to the screen, you go back to the mech screen, and then you sortie into another mission. It's old school. There isn't any like RPG-ish elements. It's all mechs all the time, all missions all the time, no nonsense. And to me, I like that. I thought it was a great, I like I said, this is the game that I reach for whenever I'm like, I want to play a game. Time to play some Armored Core. So for me, I give Armored Core 6 a 4 out of 5. Drix, how about you?
I gotta give it a 5 out of 5. I'm gonna be playing this for a while, and it's gonna be hard to take something else and even consider it as good for me. I might be fanboying out. I really don't. Okay, my one flaw is a little bit of the music. I mean, but I think fans from previous games would expect, like, I've been playing older Armored Core music in the background since we've been talking about it, but you know, we've had previously full-on like dance music soundtracks, so it doesn't really hit that mark. But that's, I don't know, the music and the sound design is amazing. I don't see any particular flaws. Like, it's if we're grading out of 100, it'd be like a 90 instead of a 95 or something. But yeah, perfect game for me. 5 out of 5.
4 out of 5 from me. 5 out of 5 from Drix. I don't know what else you need. Go pick up some Armored Core. Fully featured game, no microtransactions. Another funny thing that I've heard around the internet, Matt Kyle on the Sifted podcast said it too. All these people saying, and these kids saying, oh man, we get all these colors for our mech for free? I don't need to pay?
Yeah, no V-Bucks, none of that activity, you know. You don't need to load up a game card that you buy at a convenience store. You can just be
Nope.
creative and design your own emblem and even share it with your friends. Yeah, I spent a little bit of
Yeah.
time on my emblem too since I started playing PvP, and I was like, well, the Raven looks nice, but I need to stand out a little bit and write something that says Venom.
That's another thing that I gotta do. I multiplayer has eluded me because I gotta get on that emblem game, you know. But before we go
you have to be a proud pilot.
Yeah, no, seriously. But before we go into the full-fledged into the musical break, I want to squeeze this in there. Are you guys hyped for Spider-Man 2? I know I am. And from Xputer,
Yeah.
the headline is, "The world may not be, quote, quite prepared for Marvel's Spider-Man 2," claims PlayStation Studios official. From the article, the PlayStation Studios director of sound design, Jeremy Voigt, has chimed in to praise the entry and the devs behind it before it comes out. Jeremy has called the Insomniac team on LinkedIn, for creating, quote, its best work yet. And you know, Drix, from the Variety article that we saw the last time we talked about Spider-Man 2, I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah. No, you love to hear a creator say that they have achieved their vision in the best way possible. And yeah, we've seen some footage from this game, a little bit of the gameplay. I mean, Spider-Man has always just been iconic, and anytime he gets a video game, you know, we're ready and here for it. And to see
Usually hits.
You know usually hits. But you know what kind of new mechanics and spins they can add on the everyone's favorite web crawler.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm a fan of the first one. I loved it. I loved the DLC. This one's looking great. Spider-Man 2. But Spider-Man 2 PS5 coming at you this November, I believe. But Drix, let's get into some music before we move on to our next order of business. What do we got?
Right now, I'm gonna drop Maximum Carnage.
Aw, hell yeah. Maximum Carnage. Old school Super Nintendo arcade classic. CFM Radio, we are live.
Uh-oh.
Me. I am the great mighty Pooh, and I'm going to throw my shit at you. A huge supply of tish comes from my chocolate starfish. How about some scat, you little twat? Survive in here. You don't seem to know which creek you're in. Sweet corn is the only thing that makes it through my rear. How do you think I keep this lovely grin? Have some more caviar. Rather mad, you're like a niggly, tickly, shitty little tag nut. When I've knocked you out with all my bab, I'm going to take your head and ram it up my butt.
Your butt.
My butt.
Your butt.
That's right, my butt.
Ugh.
My butt. My butt. Look what you've done. I'm blushing. Oh, what a world, what a world. Who'd have thought a good little squirrel like you could destroy my beautiful clanginess? Oh, I'm going. Oh, no!
Now that's what I call a bowel movement.
CFM Radio.
Yeah, that
Playing
was Soprano from Conker's Bad Fur Day.
a classic, Conker's Bad Fur Day. Very influential game. Wouldn't have 2/3 of the game you have today if you didn't have Conker's Bad Fur Day. And if you haven't played it, it is
You
on
wouldn't
the
have to
rare
play it.
replay.
Ooh, yeah, get on that if you can. Not every game will write you a show tune and get one of the devs to sing it.
Seriously. But you know, I'll say, and back then, that's very impressive, but we've all seen Starfield, and it looks pretty impressive, yeah?
Yeah, from what I've seen, still pretty impressed with Skyrim in space.
Space Rim, if you will, or Star Rim.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, some players, they're reporting that these faces in Starfield, they're a little bit off. From IGN, the article reads, quote, developer explains why Starfield NPCs look like they're dead inside. From the article, character and tech artist Delaney King took to X to post a fascinating look into the eyes of Starfield's characters, explaining why their smiles look fake. The artist explains that, quote, Starfield character smiles have an issue with the orbicularis oculi muscle not contracting, which creates a Duchenne smile. Rather than look genuine, this sort of smile makes it look like you're lying or constipated. If you watch The Boys, you'll know this smile from the superb
details.
Anthony Starr, who plays the Homelander. Right? The small details, the littlest things in the world make a big difference.
Yeah, you are trying to make an accurate representation of a human being, and some of the details so small that, you know, it's just tough to pick up on, and facial expressions subtly are one of those things.
So, you know, I've been playing a lot of Starfield, and I don't notice it too often, but I understand what they're talking about. Sometimes the NPCs, you'll get an NPC every so often. It doesn't happen all the time, at least not for me, not in my opinion. But you'll get an NPC every so often that just kind of gives you this 1,000-yard stare, and you're kind of like, the fuck is going on with this guy? Like every so often you'll see somebody, you're just like, what the hell? What's wrong with you? But they're normally like just like random NPCs, and you know, hate to say it, but this might be AI, might be a byproduct of AI stuff, but I have a hard time believing that because AI stuff like this has been in the industry forever.
Yeah, I mean, remember L.A. Noire? You know, at least
Right.
the whole game isn't based around reading their facial expressions and
Oh,
figuring
God.
out if they're being honest with you or not, or even like you know, or even like an adventuring party in Baldur's Gate 3. You're not looking into their facial expressions on that level, at least.
So it's interesting that you bring that up. I actually thought about that before the show. I think maybe, just perhaps, like, listen, I think we could both agree that the mocap in Baldur's Gate 3, fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Like, I can kind of, like, it's so expressive.
Yeah, even just from watching B-roll, you can tell. They
You
put
can
a lot
just
of thought
tell.
into it.
Yeah, so like I think and it's not like Baldur's Gate 3 is a graphical powerhouse. Starfield is much more graphically impressive than Baldur's Gate 3. And it's interesting to me that, you know, people are like, "Oh man, these faces." When to me, I think this is just a really bad case of Bethesda being Bethesda, cuz I hate to say it, man. When it comes to the dialogue, all these fucking people in Starfield, and you know, they all look just like Bethesda NPCs. Like, you could tell me they look cool, they look better, more unique, more diverse, whatever. Tell me whatever buzzword you want. Push comes to shove, NPCs like this pretty much, if you're gonna present them to me in this way, right? You're gonna present them to me, you know, like facing the camera dramatically, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's all about the angles, and 9 times out of 10, I think the thing that Starfield is showing you is that these dead-on angles are not. They're not like they let you notice like the robotic part of the game and the experience. Whereas to me, I think it's all about the angles in Baldur's Gate 3. In Baldur's Gate 3, you'll be talking to people, and there are so few dialogue interactions in Baldur's Gate 3 that don't have some sort of dynamic angle going on.
Yeah, you got like camera A and camera B, and they both have an operator behind them.
Yeah, like, and you'll pick a dialogue choice, and you'll like the character that you're talking to will start talking to you. Like, you'll zoom in on their face for one line of dialogue, then the next line of dialogue you'll zoom out until you'll see their whole body, and they're doing a full body expression. You know, like it's cinematic, and I think that's the thing that people really, really want. So they're nitpicking these small things like, oh, he looks like he's dead inside. You know what I mean? But when I'm playing the game, I could barely notice.
Yeah, I mean, gamers will complain about anything, but maybe that's the longer road that it's leading down, is you probably wouldn't notice these things if the camera was doing something more artistic or creative.
Yeah, interesting, right?
Really being pushed to like its full value in storytelling, you know.
More or less bringing you into the experience, putting the immersion first.
Yeah, through a little bit of film studies.
Yeah, a little bit. Hey, and like I said, if you want to know what I mean, you take a look at Baldur's Gate 3. Pretty much anything. It's all over YouTube. So just take a look at that, and you'll understand immediately that actually we could put them together side by side. Look at a Baldur's Gate 3 dialogue interaction, and you look at a Starfield interaction, and you'll see which one is more engaging. Because I think I think the system, like the dialogue system in Starfield, is a little bit more engaging than Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 is just a little like classic, pick your response. Starfield has a little bit more going on under the hood, where you can kind of like, I don't fully understand it, but you can kind of like push your reasoning. It's all based on this like reasoning thing. So like you like push your reasoning, and like if you try to push it too hard, the guy will be like, no bullshit, I don't believe you. You know what I mean? But then like you could try to like pull it back and be like, hey, I'm just talking facts. And he's kind of like, oh, well, shit, like it's interesting the thing that's going on. So it's engaging to play, but from a cinematic point of view, yeah, I'm just not pulled in as much as I am in Baldur's Gate 3, even though Baldur's Gate 3 is much more traditional. I'm not saying bare bones, because there's a lot of great dialogue options. Incredibly well-written game, Baldur's Gate 3. Really gives you, the player, the option to say pretty close to what you want to say. But it's still that old school BioWare, like, all right, pick an answer and see what happens. You know what I mean? As opposed to Starfield, that you see that your reasoning is being pushed. Like, this guy is like, if you say this, he's probably not going to buy it, but you can still say it anyway. And even if you do say it, he might be like, I think that's bullshit. And then you could reel your argument back. You know what I mean? Be like, oh, well, it's more like this. So it's a lot more engaging to think about. So it's a fun juxtaposition to see between these two big blockbuster RPGs.
Yeah, strategy versus storytelling, and a balance between the two.
Very much so. But Drix, I think that's all from me.
Yeah?
I still got to play some more Starfield before I can really say anything about it.
Yeah. Let's not be too quick to judge. I'm, I don't think I have the PC to run this. We even got a little bit of a warning saying, make sure your hardware is up to snuff if you're going to try to run this on a PC, I guess. But yeah, I'm console exclusive out of this one.
Hey, you know
I'm
what,
not, I'm
man?
not a
Don't.
Game Pass subscriber either.
Hey, I was gonna say, just you might want to look into it. Just get the free. If you're a new subscriber, you get a free trial. And I'm playing it on my PC via cloud. It looks great and plays great and is responsive.
No, it would be a good time to look into a free trial now that Starfield is out. You're right.
Yeah. Don't even worry about just play through the trial, bro. Don't even worry about paying for that shit. It's $18 a month. It's pretty gnarly.
Yeah. Streaming.
But that's all from me.
Yeah. Let's take it out on something nice. From Donkey Kong Country 2. This is a Sticker Brush Symphony.
A classic Sticker Brush Symphony, Donkey Kong Country 2. Shout out to Grant Kirkhope. This is CFM Radio.